Hi, my name is Sydney Fry. I go to the University of California, Santa Barbara, and my project is called Minority Languages and Survival of Cultural Identity. My project explores the connection between language and identity, looking particularly at Basque, Te Maori, and Irish languages. It combines three types of sources: traditional research, field trip notes to West Ireland, the Basque Country, and New Zealand, as well as conversations with speakers of these minority languages and experts in the field. Some of my research questions include: what does it take to restore a minority language on a personal level so that it is integrated into the fabric of everyday life, as opposed to experienced primarily as a political or social movement? Should a language belong to a certain ethnic group, and if so, restricted? Should it be restricted? What role does ethnic identity play in language transmission? Does speaking a language mean automatically belonging to a particular identity? The Basque people, for instance, call themselves Euskadinak, or speakers of Basque, not necessarily those who have been born in the Basque country. What happens when the speaking of a minority becomes localized, such as in Gaeltachts in Ireland? And how have minority language revitalization efforts differed? Which strategies have been more or less effective? To what extent is this situational? What strategies have people used to spread and celebrate minority languages, and what role does music have to play both locally and globally? My findings are divided between my three essays. The first one is Language as Treasure, or Taonga, Te Reo Maori in the Present. I conducted research about how Te Reo Maori is considered a taonga, meaning treasure, which has certain cultural and legal protections. For example, under the law in New Zealand, a person who comes across a dead tui bird must contact a Maori elder in order to perform appropriate burial rites, because it is considered a cultural treasure. The language is also considered a cultural treasure. The language can be a bit tricky to understand because it's so dynamic and ever-changing in communication. So I was curious about whether there are certain guidelines about non-Maori learning the language. This ties into a question of belonging and cultural appropriation. For example, music artist Lorde, who is not Maori, released an album in the language, and there were mixed opinions about whether could be considered appropriation or was an attempt to spread awareness about the language beyond New Zealand, given her global audience. This was controversial. However, the person I interview says the bottom line is the debate is pure intention and collaboration with Maori people from start to end. I also explored the history of Maori language suppression and how it impacts the present. One woman I interviewed was raised by her grandparents who spoke Te Reo but never spoke it to her. This was because they were the children that were beaten for speaking Maori in schools. They were afraid that the same would happen to their own children. As a result, generations lost their language, and now many are just beginning their language journey. In the Basque Country, the Basque language was also suppressed and banned in schools, but because of a dictatorship as opposed to colonization. In my essay, In This Village We Live in Basque, the Basque Language Revival Movement, I explore how Franco's dictatorship impacted the language by suppressing it and causing a generation to lose their language. And also for the next generation to have a complicated relationship with it, because when it was revived after the dictatorship, it became connected, almost related with Basque separatism. So many people believe there's connotations about speaking Basque as opposed to speaking Spanish, and this created division. Another thing that created division was the establishment of Standard Basque after the dictatorship. Standard Basque allowed many young Basque people to adopt their language and reclaim their culture. However, it created division between the generations because Basque became the language of the young and the educated frequently, while older generations spoke regional dialects. In the present, it's difficult for many Basque people to maintain the language because it is often easier to speak Spanish in daily life. Finally, in my essay, International Rap, How Music Has Been Used to Amplify Minority Languages, I examine how the Basque Country in Aotearoa and in Ireland, rap groups are using their native languages both to spread awareness and for the purpose of political action. In the Basque Country, rap groups used Basque in order to spread a message of Basque independence and cultural pride, emphasizing the importance of adopting the language post-dictatorship. In Ireland, rap groups have been singing exclusively in Irish, discussing themes of Irish independence and emphasizing the connection between Northern Ireland and the Republic. Many people state that the formation of Irish language schools has had a big impact on formation of rap groups like this, connecting young people with the language and a new understanding of their culture. The significance of this project ties into the current state of minority languages worldwide. A 2020 study found that Israel memory is projected to go extinct based on current language projection models in the long term. In fact, more than a third of the world's languages are currently classified as endangered, and more than half are expected to go extinct by 2100. Increasing globalization continues to threaten minority languages and enforce language hegemony. The revitalization of these indigenous languages is essential for ensuring the continuation and transmission of rich culture and history. Looking at Basque, Maori, and Irish as case studies, we can begin to better understand the connection between minority language and national or ethnic identity, as well as explore and analyze how people have kept minority languages alive in the face of hardship and suppression. Thank you so much for listening.